Shea, it's a really good ball. It's Shabalala. Goal! Bafana, Bafana! Goal for South Africa! Goal for all Africa!
Frank de Boer speelt de bal. Heel goed naar Dennis Bergkamp. Dennis Bergkamp. Dennis Bergkamp neemt de bal aan. Dennis Bergkamp. Dennis Bergkamp. Dennis Bergkamp. Dennis Bergkamp. Dennis Bergkamp.
جهانبخش ابن عالی پاس خوب سردار میچرخه پاس تو در محبی گلش کن گلش کن گلش کن گلش کن گل گل برای ایران
¡Golazo! Argentino, 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 genio, fenómeno, ídolo, maestro. ¡Qué golazo de Messi! Uno más.
Goal! 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 Total José! Goal of Aristeas! Goal of Aristeas! Treleni total.
Howard gratefully claims it. Distribution, brilliant. Landon Donovan, there are things on here for the USA. Can they do it here? Cross, and Dempsey's denied again. And Donovan has scored! Oh, can you believe this? Go, go, USA! Certainly through. Oh, it's incredible. You could not write a script like this.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Window. We have a very special episode for you tonight. We are joined by Mo Omar of San Antonio FC, but also, especially more recently, the Somalia National Football Team. Mo, for the first time, played with Somalia in the past World Cup qualifiers in March, and we're really excited to have you, Mo. And why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and what you're up to these days?
Yeah, first and foremost, really glad to join the show tonight. Thank you guys for having me. But yeah, so my name's Mo Omar. Currently play for San Antonio FC in the USL Championship. And as you mentioned, most recently just got back from World Cup qualifiers with Somalia. Great experience. We tied Guinea. Unfortunately, we lost to Botswana, but still a historic window. Picked up our first points in qualifying, and a great experience all around. But yeah, a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Toronto, Canada. Came up through various local clubs there before joining the Toronto FC Academy, the MLS club. Played there for a couple of years before heading to prep school in the United States called the Berkshire School, which at the time, we were the top-ranked high school team in the United States. So a lot of top players there, but also a great balance of athletics and education. And then, so I spent my high school years there before heading to the University of Notre Dame, where I played there and graduated there. I was a 2-year captain, the various ACC honors at Notre Dame before I ended up getting drafted in the first round of the MLS Super Draft to the Colorado Rapids. And, for various reasons, unfortunately, that didn't work out. But, I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. And this was meant to be on my path. But yeah, before I ended up joining Somalia's national team, I was actually with the Canadian U20 under 20 national team for CONCACAF championships. And then, yeah, most recently committed and playing for the Somalian men's national team now.
It's awesome. So how did all that come about with you getting connected with the Somalia team?
So I'll be honest, there were talks of that happening for a couple of years, but there were just some things that weren't lining up correctly, and it was more of a, okay, when the time feels right, then I'll kind of know, and that time felt right last year, but I ended up getting hurt, unfortunately, a week before the international window was supposed to start. So that sort of, lit a fire in me, added more motivation to want to go represent my country. And then most recently in March, I was able to go do that, and a really special experience that I look back on right now, and can't wait till the next one.
It's awesome. And I mean, Somalia, as you mentioned, a historic window, but I think coupled with that, Somalia on the international stage hasn't had much success. Did that give you any hesitation as far as potentially joining the team at all?
If I'm being completely honest, there was no hesitation in that regard. If anything, that added to my reasoning why I wanted to, join up with the national team and really help push the national team and the success of our country on the international stage to a higher level, right? Those are the sort of games you want to play against, because I look at that team we played against for Guinea. There's world-class players on that team, right? Playing in some of the biggest clubs, biggest leagues in the world, Champions League, Europa League, you name it, right? And then same with Botswana, a lot of players playing in top clubs in Africa and the Middle East. So those are the sort of games that as a player you want to play in, and it's even more special when you're able to represent your country and your parents' country. So a really special moment for sure.
Yeah, that was a question that I wanted to ask, and if you already mentioned it, I apologize. I guess I must have missed it. But what is the connection between you and the country of Somalia? Like, what is the relationship there? Like, is it with your parents or something?
Yeah. So both my parents are from Somalia, and then they emigrated from Somalia to Canada. But yeah, that's where sort of the connection comes from. Yeah.
And had you been back there prior to you going to play for the national team? Like, have you ever visited the country before?
No, so I've actually never been back. I've never been back to Somalia, but that's definitely something I want to do in the not so distant future, if I'm able to, and if things align and the timing works out, then that's definitely something I'd like to do.
Yeah. Were your family and friends watching?
Yeah, of course. A lot of family, a lot of friends, because that's when you start playing in those sorts of games, it's unbelievable how many more eyes are on you now, right? And not to say necessarily that those eyes are necessarily coming from the Somalian side, but when you're playing against the sort of opposition that we are playing against in these World Cup qualifiers, you have a lot more eyes just because of the caliber of players, and that only benefits everybody, right? So
yeah. We Brandon and I were celebrating because ESPN Plus picked up all the World Cup qualifiers, so we were able to watch, basically all of them. So nice. we tuned in, we tuned into the match, and we got to see you. You ended up going full 90 in both matches against Guinea and Botswana. So your first two starts there. Can you describe for us and for the listeners, what was it like to represent Somalia for the first time? Like, what was the feelings that you felt as you were standing there and the anthem was playing? What was that experience like?
Yeah, so I'll be honest, when it sort of hit me for the first time was as I was heading to the airport to fly out in San Antonio, right? That's when it kind of just hit me for the first time. And I was like, okay, like I'm officially going on international duty now. So now it feels real, right? And you get on the plane and you start that journey over there. And our first game against Guinea, we actually played in the Ivory Coast. So we traveled over there. And then, you get to the hotel, you finally see the gear, you meet up with the team, the coaches, the players, and now it starts to feel real, right? And, it's funny because when it's these sort of World Cup qualifier matches, they have to sort of give you a police escort everywhere. So now you have a police escort everywhere, right? You're going to training, you're going to the game, you're going here, you're going there, it's everything, right? So that just adds to the sort of build up leading into the match. And then once we arrived at the stadium, I mean, that's the biggest stadium I've played in my life, right? The Olympic Stadium in Ebimpe, the Olympic Stadium of the Ivory Coast. I think it's maybe 60,000. And it's such a special atmosphere and such a special moment when you walk out of that tunnel for the first time and you're like, you know, this is sort of that, okay, you're here now moment. And then, you know, after that, time to go out for the warm-ups. That's when it's sort of just, okay, you lock in. It's another game. At the end of the day, it's another game. There's an opposition that you're going up against. You've done your preparation, your video, your tactics. And now it's just who's going to be better on the day. And I'd be lying if I said, you know, lining up against those guys in the tunnel wasn't a sort of like, okay, this is real moment, you know? So it really, really special. Then hearing the national anthem, really special. But yeah, a surreal moment all around.
That's awesome. You alluded to something that we were going to ask a little bit about, which was really the travel. And what was that like? Because you're coming from the United States. You mentioned the match against Guinea was in the Ivory Coast, then Botswana. I can't imagine it was a quick journey.
No, not at all. Not at all. The thing is, though, there's not necessarily an easy way to go about that travel, right? Because there's, you know, for example, there was me coming from the United States. We had one player coming from Canada, but then we also had a couple guys coming from Australia, a number of guys coming from Europe. So everyone's travel was sort of a lot longer than you might expect, but at the same time, there's no easy way to go about it. And to be fair, most players are doing that aren't, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, the travel is going to be long regardless, and you sort of just have to deal with it. But I think my travel, the fastest route was, you know, 20 plus hours, right? So that sort of just gives you a glimpse into, okay, now you really need to make sure that you're taking care of your body, you're hydrating well, you're doing all the recovery things, just to ensure that when you do get there and you have those couple of days, your body is already feeling good and has already had time to, you know, sort of adjust to after that, all that travel.
So when you arrived, how did they welcome you? I mean, was the captain, who I believe is Abdul Samed Abdullahi, if I'm correct, who's currently playing in Montenegro, was he there to like welcome you as soon as you stepped off the plane, or was he the first one to come up to you when you arrived at the hotel, or I'm just curious.
Yeah, you know, it was a really nice welcome for everyone. You know, once we got to the airport, there was some members of the staff waiting for us, just because everyone's travel sort of dictated whether or not they had a match with their club that weekend. Right. So I had a match on the Saturday, so I couldn't fly out till Sunday, but some guys had already flown out as of Friday, so they'd gotten there a couple of days earlier. But yeah, the welcome was smooth. We got there, ended up getting over to the hotel, and then that's when you sort of meet all the staff, meet a bunch of the players, just because, you know, we're Muslim as well, right? First and foremost, we're Muslim, so this was during Ramadan. Right. So we were all fasting and things like that. So the timing sort of lined up that once we got to the hotel, it was pretty much right around the time to break the fast. So a lot of guys were already there in the lobby. And so it made the welcome a little bit smoother, I guess, because everyone was already sort of there.
Cool.
So this was your first time playing with the team. What was your familiarity like with the other players, and how do you think just preparing for that, was there anything you would have done differently, and how did all that come together, do you feel, once you guys finally stepped on the pitch?
Yeah, so there was one player that I'd never played with, but I played against him before. His name is Ali Musi. He plays in the Canadian Premier League for Cavalry. But just from my time when I was in the Canadian Premier League, we played against each other a couple times, spoke a bunch, just because I knew he was also of a Somalian background. But once we got there, honestly, the team gelled as well as you can, right? It's a group of anytime it's an international window, it's a group of players coming together, and you're just trying to make the most of the situation on and off the field, and do your best for your country and get the best result. The training sessions were good. Sort of just, when you only have a couple of days, a lot of it comes down to, okay, can we just all get on the same page tactically, right? A lot of players are, pretty much everyone's in their season. So everyone came in feeling sharp, feeling fit. But now it's about everyone getting on the same page with the tactical understanding, what we want to do with the ball, what we want to do defensively, how we're going to look on set pieces. And then, comes down to on the day, who can execute better, right? Because the international window is the same length and time for everybody. It's not like certain teams have longer time periods than others, right? Everyone sort of has that same amount of dates to work with. It's just all about who makes the most of it.
And I guess coming into the window, you knew where the Somalian team stood in the table for World Cup qualifying, and knowing that the odds coming into this window were stacked against you a bit. What were some of the goals for the team? Do you feel like you achieved those goals? Because I think with where you were at just coming into the window, the odds of ultimately getting to the World Cup at that point were pretty long. But were there different goals for the team, and how do you feel the team really worked towards that this window?
I mean, I'll be completely honest. This is coming from somebody who hates to lose. I mean, my goal, regardless of who we're playing against, is to go out there and win.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. We're going up against world-class players and guys who are playing in the highest leagues in the world. I totally understand that, but this is why you play the game. You play to compete and you play to win. So getting that point against Guinea was, nobody expected that, right? It was a historic moment, but we played to win that game. We didn't play to lose that game. You know what I mean? It wasn't our plan to say, oh, we're going to go out there, but I know we're going to lose. That's never the case, right? We go out there and we want to win. And honestly, that game ended up being a tie. It could have gone Guinea's way. There was a chance at the end. It could have gone our way. That's the beauty of football, is that once you step on the pitch, it's anyone's game, right? So I'd be lying if I said, we expected to lose, because we didn't.
Yeah.
I want to win every game. The Botswana game was frustrating, because that was a game that I really felt we should have won. I mean, we had the chances to win. And then the goals that we gave up were just goals that, are completely avoidable. So that one was definitely tough to take, but at the end of the day, it's who can execute better on the day, who can come out and take their chances better for 90 minutes. And unfortunately, it wasn't us.
So one of the things that we like to do every international break is afterwards we put together our team of the window. And you may have seen this, you may have not, but your teammate, Mohamed Omar, he made our team of the window for his amazing performances in both games, really. He was very good, but obviously in the Guinea game, that was just insane.
And we didn't plan that. We didn't stack it and say we're going to put a Somalian player in the team of the window, just knowing that we were going to be talking to you.
I honestly, I saw that and I sent it over to him. Your guys'
Nice.
team of the window. No, it was, I mean, that quite honestly could have been the best goalkeeping performance that I've been a part of in my career. There were some amazing saves, and then there were some out of this world saves, and then there were saves he had no business making. It was pretty surreal to watch it, I'm sure, but then to be a part of it was even crazier.
Yeah, that's it. Just, I mean, it that performance blew our mind. Like it
Yeah.
was not even it was not even a question for us. Like we stamped him in as goalkeeper as soon as that match. It may not even have been over yet, and we're like,
Yeah, we were
he is
talking.
he is in the team of the window. We don't even care what
Yeah.
happens in the second game. He has absolutely earned it.
No, he was unbelievable. He was unbelievable. Yeah.
So a few of our followers actually sent in some questions. If that's all right, we can share some of those as well.
Of course.
So for other players that are considering, or are eligible for the Somalian team, what has that experience been like for you? And is that something that you would encourage or recommend if people are considering, like, hey, I do have that Somalian heritage, I could be eligible, haven't really thought about it. Is it a decision that you would recommend for others as well?
Yeah, I mean, 100%, I'd recommend it. At the end of the day, this is a special moment to represent your country on the international stage, like in front of the world, right? You really are playing in front of the world now, and there was just a level of pride from our team, but also, playing against Guinea and playing against Botswana. You could see there was a level of pride from even the opposition when those players were wearing their country's jersey and singing the national anthems, and seeing the fans in the crowd, just because the game against Guinea was in the Ivory Coast, so not too many fans traveled, but there were still a lot of fans, right? And so you're hearing the fans singing and chanting and cheering, and then Botswana, the stadium is practically full, fans going same thing, singing, cheering on their team, and there was just a different level of pride that just naturally comes out in these games. So I definitely recommend it for players who have Somali heritage, just because it's a special experience, and playing these international games can only help your career as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Your club we presume, has been very supportive of this venture for you.
Yeah, for sure. I remember last year when I first got called up, they were super happy, super excited for me. And then obviously with my injury, I wasn't able to go. But this time around, same thing. Very supportive of me, just wishing me the best of luck, and wishing our country the best of luck. And pretty much everybody asking me how my experience was, and it's pretty crazy looking back on it now, because I look at some of those guys on Guinea, for example. They went from playing against me, and then the very next weekend, one of them's playing against Real Madrid in La Liga, and then the next weekend, which was just a couple of days ago, another one is playing against Real Madrid, this time for Valencia, and he scores, right? And then obviously you have guys like Girassi and a number of other players playing in the Bundesliga and Liga. It's
right.
And same with the Botswana, top players all around, right? So it's pretty crazy when I look back on it now, and feel like I performed well. I belong there. Now it's just about continuing to grow and get better each day, and now back to club football and helping my club.
So in that same vein, I guess, one of the questions that we got is, what was one of the most immediate differences that you noticed when you were playing for the national team versus playing for your club team? Like, was it speed of play or communication, or I don't know?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think just from watching a lot of AFCON games, even before I joined up with the Somalia National Team, watching the AFCON tournament, just watching a lot of World Cup qualifier games growing up and my whole life, really. The sort of the African games, They have a heightened level of, physicality, speed, and you only sort of realize that when you're actually on that pitch. But I definitely noticed that the game was probably a bit more stretched, a bit more open than maybe a club football game would be. But that also comes down to the amount of time players have with each other, the understanding that everyone has with each other, the tactical understanding, if everyone's on the same page. There's just small things like that, pressing cues. When do you press? When do you not press? I definitely noticed that the game was a lot more stretched in both games, really, compared to maybe a club football game would be.
The competition in Africa has just gotten it's gotten to such a high level, and we talk about World Cup qualifying, and Africa is one of the confederations that picked up a lot more bids to the 2026 World Cup. So previously 5 countries from Africa, it's expanded to 9 now with the potential for a 10th, and you don't see any drop off in quality. When 5 teams are making it, you look at the teams that missed out, and it's like there are a lot of good teams that miss out.
Yep.
You add 4 more teams, you still have that same thing. Yes, you have more teams qualifying, but you still have a lot of really good teams that are not going to make it. And I think, for you as a player, it sounds like that's really been beneficial to get competition. You were going to be playing against good teams no matter who you face.
Of course. And I mean, it's for example, just basing it off the 2 teams we played against, like that Guinea team with world-class players, didn't qualify for this upcoming AFCON 2020, right? Like that's unbelievable to even think that that's possible. That blows my mind, right? But then I think Botswana, finished top of their group.
Yeah, they're in
for qualifying. They're in, right? It's pretty surreal to really grasp the reality of how well and how much African football has improved. And watching AFCON each time, it only gets better. It only gets better.
I think it's possibly my favorite tournament, and maybe Joe's as well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I love that.
Definitely. Yeah, we're big AFCON fans for sure. Africa in general, actually. But
no, I mean even playing in that Olympic Stadium against Guinea, right? Like that's where the AFCON final was when the Ivory Coast beat Nigeria. Like just being in a stadium like that, and because I was watching that final and just being like, this is that same stadium, same pitch. Another one of those moments where you're just like, okay, like it feels real now.
Yeah. I want to talk about the national team now and where you guys are going to go from here, because obviously you still have qualifiers to come. But at this point, I don't want to say they're meaningless, because they're not. There's still an opportunity for you guys to improve and play for pride. I guess my question is, after that, the Somalia national team is to be honest, is one that doesn't seem to get a lot of games outside of games that they have to play, right? So whether it's AFCON qualifiers or World qualifiers, but you don't see them participate in a lot of friendlies. So I guess my first question is, have you heard, and I don't know if you can answer this, but are you guys doing anything in June in terms of getting together? And if, I guess my second question then is, are you looking now towards the next AFCON qualifying now that the World Cup qualifying it's not behind you, but it is kind of in that sense, right? So are you using these upcoming games to now prepare for that next phase?
Yeah, I mean, first, I think you're absolutely right. You can't really get better, create relationships on the field with players, create that deeper understanding of the game model and the system you want to play and things like that, unless you're getting the national team together more often. So I think that's definitely something that I hope is in the works, to get more friendlies, just because I think one of the guys was saying that Botswana team or Guinea team had played, I think, pretty much maybe 6 or 8 games in between the time that Somalia had last played their game last June, right? So that in and of itself, that is where the advantage comes from. That's where the relationships between players are built and developed, right? So I think that's definitely one thing that I hope is being worked on. And then second, I think we're gonna attack the next World Cup qualifier matches with the same intensity and same ambition that we did, that we have been attacking them with. But yeah, I definitely want to believe that next cycle of qualifiers for AFCON, that's definitely a goal, is first and foremost to qualify for AFCON, and do everything in our power to make that happen. Just because I really do believe the gap is not what people think it might be. I really do believe that we have a chance at qualifying for AFCON based on what I saw this past window in March. What I saw from the players, from what the coaches want from us. I really do believe it's possible. Now it's up to us to make that a reality.
So I don't know how tight-knit community the Somalia footballer community is, but one of the other questions that we had from our follower, who's at Somali Athlete, you may be familiar with him, but he was wondering if you guys have had any like conversations with players like Taha Ali, with like Bilal Hussein, like some of these guys that could bring, like, just like you, bring a new dimension to the team and a new element, right, and strengthen the squad. Like, are you aware of if there's any conversations going on with those players behind the scenes?
So to be honest, me personally, just speaking for myself, I've not spoken with either of those guys or some of the European. I know there's a number of Somali players who are playing, like Taha Ali, Bilal Hussein, playing in some top leagues in Europe, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, having players like that would strengthen the team immensely. So that is something that I would like to hope can happen in the future. But speaking for myself, I haven't spoken with them. I know that there's some players on the team who have relationships with those guys and do speak with them and maybe are trying to help convince those guys to join up with the national team. But that's not necessarily something I can speak on right now.
Sure. Yeah, it's all good.
Very diplomatic answer.
Yeah, that's very good. Yeah.
But no, it's always something that we're interested in too, is just seeing who new to the national team and where teams are finding players, and you just keep seeing more and more a lot of national teams really just looking wherever they can to find people that are eligible and can help the team. So
Yeah.
I certainly believe, especially when you say where you don't think the gap is as large as people think it is. I think there's a lot of truth to that for sure.
Yeah. And honestly speaking, it took me stepping foot on that pitch and being in the flow of that game to really feel, not just feel that or think that, but to feel strongly about that. I really do believe we're on the cusp of something special, but we need to carry that momentum now in the right direction and keep that momentum going rather than stalling or going backwards. Right now it's about, okay, how do we keep this moving forward in the right direction? How do we keep being more driven next window and things like that to really come and say, okay, we have the foundation for something. Now it's time to build on it.
All right, Joe, I think you have a couple more questions. I know I'm looking forward to your quick fire round.
Yeah. So yeah, I have two other questions, and then we'll move into the quick fire round, and then we'll kind of wrap things up. But You mentioned that you played youth with Canada, and obviously you have played in both Canada and the United States now, so you will be familiar with CONCACAF and with the Gold Cup. The draw for the Gold Cup was last night. I don't know if you tuned in or if you've seen it, but if you have, give us your prediction.
Yeah, so funny enough, we were actually just talking about this today at training, just because we have one of my teammates who plays for the Trinidad and Tobago national team.
Yeah.
And then I have another teammate who regularly plays for El Salvador's national team.
Yeah.
So both those guys are definitely super excited about the upcoming Gold Cup and the draws that they had. It is pretty crazy to see that. I think Saudi Arabia is joining the Gold
Correct.
Cup this year.
Yeah.
So that could honestly be a bit of a curveball in terms of just like the style of play and what the style of play that they bring, and compared to the typical CONCACAF teams. But I think it'll be a really good team, and honestly, I hope it's an underdog that wins it, and because can never go wrong with one of those stories. So
I
we'll
will
have to
tell
see.
you, both Joe and I have had some conversations about the Gold Cup, and I don't think either of us are overly optimistic about the United States right now. So I do think we could certainly see some upset in the Gold Cup.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and the fact that the Club World Cup is going on around the same time, I think is gonna impact some of the other teams too, like Mexico, for example. So
Yep. I just saw. I think Mexico has 3 clubs
Yeah.
that could be impacted by that. So
that's right. Yeah.
yeah, that could definitely throw a curveball in that for sure. But leading into the 2026 World Cup, I think it's there's definitely going to be a lot of added pressure on the host countries. So we'll see.
I don't want to diverge too much, but you were obviously just talking about your teammates earlier. You're talking about Shannon Gomez, who plays for Trinidad, and then you're talking, I think, about Nelson Blanco, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
So yeah, those guys no doubt are excited for what's to come. Trinidad is just a quick side note. Trinidad is interesting. They're really coming on of late. To get to the Gold Cup, I think was a good step for them, because we were a bit unsure about them heading into that, but they've looked good under Dwight York, so that's positive for them. So
yeah, and actually, I have a number of Shannon Gomez. I know him just because obviously playing together right now. But yeah, that Trinidad team has a couple of other players that I've played with in the past, and players that I've grown up with and played with at Toronto FC's academy as well. So I'm definitely happy to see their success, and then El Salvador as well. Hopefully Nelson can have more success with them as well.
Yeah. My final question is, so USL, United Soccer League, USL, they just announced that they're going to introduce promotion and relegation into the league, and I'm just curious for your thoughts on that. Like, are you a big fan of that, or are you kind of indifferent, or what are you thinking?
I think, to be completely honest with you, I'm all for it. The promotion and relegation, I think it adds a different element just to how everyone approaches the football in and of itself, and the need for results, right? I think oftentimes there's and not just in the USL, but around the world, really, where there isn't promotion relegation, it unfortunately can lead to some complacency, or maybe a decline in the level of football being played and things like that. But I think when there's promotion and relegation, it's sort of everyone's desperate for points every single week, right? So I think it'll only bring the best out of everyone. And I think that's something that should be looked forward to with excitement, just because, I think it leads to a better product on the field as well.
Perfect. Was the right answer. Cool. But yeah, should we move into the quick fire round then?
Let's do it. I'll set it up, and Joe, you can run through. So, we've done some different interviews. We've done this quick fire round. So we'll go through just some real quick questions about some of your favorites, just initial reaction, whatever comes to mind. Joe's going to hit you with a couple questions.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Favorite dish?
Maybe pasta and chicken.
Okay. Nice. Did your let's tweak that slightly. Favorite Somalian dish? I don't know if you had a lot of that. I would imagine that you did, but
Yeah, it pretty much okay. Then probably just pasta and meat, or pasta or rice and meat. We call it hilib, but it's just just pretty much is beef. So rice and beef,
okay.
or rice and There's rice and beef. There's rice and goat, whichever you prefer.
Okay, what do you prefer?
Honestly, I like them all. Honestly, yeah, hard to choose one, I guess.
Favorite post-match snack?
Favorite post-match snack? Honestly, I can't go wrong with ice cream. I don't necessarily have a sweet tooth, but I do like ice cream. That's sort of maybe the only sweet, I guess, I like.
Okay, nice. Favorite restaurant?
Favorite restaurant? Okay. I mean, I like steak, so maybe a steakhouse. I'm not against steakhouses.
I'm sure there's some good ones in Texas, no doubt.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Favorite footballer?
Favorite footballer right now, or just in general, who I idolized?
All of them.
I think I'll be completely honest. My favorite footballer was probably Thierry Henry, but I think the footballer that I really sort of modeled my game, or tried to model my game after, was a blend between Patrick Vieira and Yaya Toure. Just because I think Yaya Toure was that he had an element of the game where he could do both sides of the ball so well, and I don't really think there's been a player who's been able to match that on both sides of the ball in a very long time.
You know his song, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Okay, nice.
Of course.
Okay, what's your favorite sports team? Doesn't have to be soccer or football. It could be anything.
Arsenal.
Okay, nice.
Yep.
If you were not playing football, what sport would you play?
Ooh, maybe basketball. Yeah, grew up watching a lot of basketball, playing basketball, so could see myself doing that.
Raptors?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Raptors fan. Gotta support you gotta support your hometown team.
Yeah.
Well, then this next question, I think there's only one answer. Favorite music artist?
Oh, okay. Drake is up there. Drake is up there. But yeah, I listen to a lot of different music. I'll be honest. I'm not one who has any playlists or anything. I kind of just hit shuffle on my phone, and if I like it, I keep it. If I don't, just hit the next. But Drake is definitely up there.
Nice.
Well, yeah, thanks for hopping on that. That's the end of quickfire round. I do have one other comment, and then Brandon can wrap it up. But so we've been talking, and to my earlier question, I think that maybe this is more of a statement than a question, but I think you guys would be an excellent candidate, the Somalia National Team, for the next FIFA series. Are you familiar with FIFA series? It's like a friendly tournament type setting that FIFA put together. They did their first one last year, and
it really came out of nowhere.
And their goal is to get these nations that are very similar in a lot of ways to like Somalia, right? Who struggle to perhaps have the financial ability to get a lot of friendlies or whatever the case may be, right? So in the last one, you had Cambodia, you had
Some Caribbean nations. I think Bermuda was there.
Yeah, Bermuda was there. That's right. So some of these, I don't want to say smaller, but I think you understand what I'm saying.
Of course, of course.
And so, yeah, I would love to see Somalia maybe be in the next one. So hopefully, I don't know, that would be exciting.
Yeah, that would definitely be super exciting. Yeah, at the end of the day, the more time we spend together, I think that'll translate, the better it'll translate on the pitch, right? So that's definitely something that I hope can happen in the future.
Yeah. Well, as Joe said, Mo, we really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us about your career, the Somali national team. Where can people find you on socials?
Yeah, so first, really, really glad I was able to hop on with you guys. Appreciate the invite, and most importantly, appreciate all the coverage you guys do on international football, and then also the Somalia national team as well. But yeah, on Instagram, it's at Mo Omar 6, so MOOMAR, and then the number 6, and then on Twitter at Mo Omar 29. So that's where I'm at. But yeah, really appreciate you guys having me on.
Awesome.
Yeah,
well, please give Mo a follow. Thank you to all of our listeners, and hope you enjoyed the special episode hearing about Mo and the Somali national team. So thank you again, and we'll see you next time.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys.